Hello, Rams. Welcome back to She's Ready Ministries. Today we're going to get into Exodus chapter 16. Hopefully, you have been reading along with me ahead of time before the interpretation, but if not, let's dig in. The Israelites arrive at the desert of Sin, and this is called the desert of Sin because of their lack of faith. The desert of Sin is in modern-day Palestine. They arrive in the desert of Sin in the second month of their exodus from Egypt. The second month. They were constantly grumbling against Moses and Aaron, complaining that when they were in Egypt, they had pots of meat and ate all the food they wanted, but they brought them into the desert to starve to death. The Lord told Moses that he would rain down bread, aka manna, from heaven for them. The people were to go out each day and gather just enough manna for the day. The Lord was testing them to see if they would follow his instructions. On the sixth day, they should prepare what they gathered and gather twice as much as the other days. Moses told the people that in the morning they would see the glory of the Lord because he has heard of their grumbling against him. They will get to eat meat in the evening and bread in the morning. That they are not grumbling against Moses and Aaron, but they are grumbling against the Lord. The glory of the Lord appeared in a crowd, and that evening, quail covered the camp. And in the morning, there was a layer of dew on the ground. When the dew was gone, thin flakes appeared. The Israelites did not know what the dew was, but Moses told them that it was the bread, and they should take 3 pounds of it daily, no more. Some gathered much, others gathered little. They were not allowed to keep it until the morning. But of course, some didn't listen, and when they woke up the next day, the manna was full of maggots and began to smell, and Moses was angry with them. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much. Moses told them to bake, boil, and do what they wanted with the manna, as they had to keep the Sabbath the next day to rest. That whatever was left, they could have it the next morning, but there would be no manna on the Sabbath, and they saved it. So even though people were told there would be no manna on the Sabbath, some people still went out to look for it. The Lord asked Moses, how long will they refuse to keep his commands? So the people did not go out, and they rested. Manna was white like coriander seeds, and it tasted like wafers made with honey. The Lord instructed the people to take an omer of manna and to save it for generations to see what they had ate in the wilderness. Aaron put the manna with the tablets of the covenant law. The Israelites ate manna for 40 years until they came to a land bordering Canaan. Okay, so in chapter 16, it clearly tells us that they were in the wilderness eating manna for 40 years. So some of the interpretations. The majority of humans love to complain while they do nothing. Stay away from people that have a problem for every solution. Before God moves you into your promised land, you will be tested. He must see if you really trust him. He will give you detailed instructions that you must follow. In one of my prophetic words, that was actually a prophetic word to my followers, that the Lord was saying there are some of you that he's given instructions to follow and you're not really following it. And he wants you to follow it because following those instructions will put you out of the wilderness and into the promised land that he has for you. You also have to allow and surrender to God for his glory to appear in your life. His glory in your life is the foundation for miracles. Manna and quail were miracles. I mean, think about it. Bread was falling from the sky. Birds are falling from the sky. Those are miracles from God. And you have to be able to basically surrender your plans, surrender your life over to God for him to work in your life and to do his will. The majority of the world we live in have people who refuse the Lord's command and deny Jesus. Let's not forget that. Whatever you do and wherever you go in life, don't stop assuming that people will do you or treat you the way you've treated them. That is not true. Because the simple fact is, the majority of the world we live in don't even believe in Jesus. They don't believe in him, and they don't believe in his goodness. They just don't. Even people who claim to be religious don't believe in Jesus. Do research on that. Do some research on that. Why were they in the wilderness for 40 years? Because they were not obedient and they didn't want to change. You cannot progress in Christ doing whatever you want to do. You can only progress in Christ being obedient to him and doing what he's asked you to do. So the unbelieving generation had to die before they could enter the promised land. We have to have faith. And that generation that left Egypt had none. Finally, Moses was angry. Like, one of the things that stood out for me when I read this chapter was he often got angry with them. And look, understandable. I'm not saying that Moses shouldn't have gotten angry. But when I thought about it on a deeper level, Moses was getting angry because of the actions of other people. I think Moses being angry, and then ultimately what happens to Moses at the end of Exodus, is what kind of teaches us that we have to temper our anger and we have to make choices of what is worth getting angry over and what isn't. And that's why you'll hear various biblical scholars and whatnot talk about righteous anger and how righteous anger is fine with the Lord. But in this case, yes, we could look at it and we could say that Moses was angered righteously because he was trying to instruct them according to what the Lord was trying to instruct them. But you can't force people to do what they don't want to do. And when people don't want to do what you're asking them to do, getting angry doesn't make them do it. So we really have to pay attention to what we get angry at and stop stressing ourselves out, because anger puts a lot of stress on the body. Stop stressing ourselves out over situations that we can't control. So thank you for joining me for chapter 16. If you didn't read it, please go back and read it now and build your connection with the Lord, because he has specific things that he wants to tell you personally. Why? Because you are super worthy. Talk to you soon.